are a business networking organization, and we connect the Nordic region's innovation ecosystem, so incubator science parks, innovation agencies, research institutes, you name it, everything that's part of the innovation ecosystem, what's happening around that, the Silicon Valley's ecosystem. And we do that primarily through three things. We have events like these. We have 5 special interest groups, and this event is organized by our special interest group for cloud and social media. It's actually their first event, but Lars will tell you all about that shortly. And then we have a SIG for mobile, and also some gaming in there. We have entrepreneurship and learning, life science, clean tech, and that's it, and cloud and social media. We also have chapters in 3 of the Nordic countries, in Stockholm, Copenhagen, and Oslo. We have a little bit over 5,000 members today, and we're growing very, very fast. So we do about 50 to 60 events per year. We had 55 last year, and we're going to do probably 60 this year within these interest groups and topics. But we also do a lot of promotion and branding for Nordic innovations and startups, so that's also one of our main things. And of course, we also brand some of our sponsors and partners, and we're very happy to have them with us. You can see, of course, Babson, our host, and I will let Laura tell us a little bit about that shortly. We also have Bank of the West that created their own Viking banner. They're French, so we couldn't have the Eiffel Tower, so we actually preferred the Viking ship on their banner. Then we have Scandinavian Airlines that just recently joined us for the direct flight from here to Copenhagen. We also have Sköna, our creative partner, an ad agency here in the city. And of course, Babson as our newest main sponsor, and we're really happy to be here, and thank you for hosting us. Do you want to tell us a little bit about her? So Laura Hunt, everyone, thank you.
Hi. Welcome to Babson's San Francisco campus. We are thrilled to have you with us, and we're very excited about our partnership with the Silicon Valley Vikings. Quick overview about Babson for some of you who might be new to us. We are an MBA program out here. It is a blended learning program, which basically means you can work full-time and get the MBA part-time. We have just received our #1 in entrepreneurship ranking for the 20th year in a row. So if you are interested in entrepreneurship, and if you're interested in education, please come find me. My name is Laura Hunter, and I live in San Francisco, and I work here with the program, and I'd be happy to chat with you more. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Laura. Thank you so much. And without further ado, I would like Lars Jensen, the chairman of the Cloud and Social Media SIG, to tell us a bit more about that.
So thank you all for coming. Thank you, Adiba. So this is our first event, basically a cloud and social media. The special interest group is fairly new. We just started out 4 months ago. And basically we want to connect startups in Scandinavia with the startup and whole sort of Silicon Valley environment for them to get sort of introduced to Silicon Valley, and for investors to get their eyes open for startups in the Nordics. We have some of our team members here. If you can just stand up. We have Andreas from who joined our team recently, and Per from Google, and we have Eric. And basically, what we want to do is bring great speakers to our events and connect the startups that are coming into the valley. I want to introduce our host for tonight. Well, host not, but our moderator, Novet with GigaOM. Do you want to introduce the panel, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored to be part of Silicon Vikings, even though I'm not, native. So I'll try to learn. And so, yeah, I'm a staff writer at GigaOM. I cover cloud computing and big data. So that is a really generic way to describe it, but it really covers a lot of different things that we write about from day to day. So maybe we can start off by really having you guys introduce yourselves and giving a really light overview so we can dive into the crazy details. So Tony, if you could start us off.
Sure, I am Tony Gauda, the founder and one of the founders and CEO of Bitcasa. And our goal is to make it so that you never run out of space again across every device that you own. It's very simple.
Yeah, Martin?
And I'm Martin Frid-Nielsen, and I'm the founder and CEO of Soonr. We are a cloud service that provides online file sharing, collaboration with businesses.
Nick Friedman. I lead the enterprise strategy for Google Drive and focus on bringing content to the cloud and making it useful.
Great. I'm Clint, Gordon-Carroll. Space Monkey is the company that I co-founded, which, you're like, what? Space Monkey, we'll get into that a little bit, but essentially what we're trying to do is take the cloud out of the data center, where we believe that the data center is kind of an old kind of technology that isn't meeting demands of consumer storage. And yeah, that's Space Monkey.
Great, great. Well, before I forget, also there is a hashtag hash or # #SV Cloud. So if any of you guys are hesitant to ask questions, all you have to do is type it, and we'll see it right here. And then actually, I'll be able to pick and choose the toughest questions to ask them. So you'll also be able to, shout out verbally if you'd like to do that too toward the end. So actually, Clint, you brought up data centers way before I was gonna get to it.
My apologies.
So that's okay to steal my thunder. It's free. But let's really talk about that. Can you
Sure.
really share a little bit about your background at Mozy, and then get into the crazy direction that's really saying.
Yeah, kind of where the offbeat is. Yeah.
Exactly.
So my co-founder and I, and actually one of Bitcasa's co-founders came from Mozy, one of the early online backup companies. We weren't calling it cloud. Walt Mossberger at the time wasn't even calling it cloud. So we were building this distributed data center storage system. We were pretty proud. At one point, we per gigabyte were cheaper than AWS. We had more storage per petabyte than AWS. We were very kind of pushing the boundaries there in data center technology and things like that. And we were then acquired by EMC. And as acquisitions usually go, so goes the technology. Unless you're acquired by Google. Whatever. So EMC definitely went through some iterations. I think Mozy now has been given to VMware, and then I think VMware gave it back to EMC, and we don't know what's going on with Mozy anymore. So we left Mozy, but I think what's interesting about the story is that in 2006, I was one of the first product managers there to productize the technology that we were building in the data center. And so I was keenly aware of what people were storing in sets of data. And back in 2006, 30 gigs was considered, you've been spending a lot of time on Napster if you've got 30 gigs of data. But yeah, I think the average user was definitely somewhere between 20 and 30 gigs, and MP3s were the makeup of the majority of that. But the world changed. I mean, it fell on top of us in 2008. The iPhone came out, and you now had phones with with cameras. And that was crazy. You even had the flip phone, which people will claim it was a disaster. I will claim that actually led to a lot of interesting innovation in that area of space. And so by 2008, the average user was now storing 60, 70, 80 gigs of data at Mozy. And Mozy was a all-you-can-eat buffet, one of those really gross ones you get food poisoning from. So people were stuffing as much data as they could inside the data center. And at $5 a month, you can imagine the margins would eventually just shrink up. And they did. They fell off the side, and the business had to make a decision. Do we innovate, or do we, we lost our edge. There's no doubt AWS had just superseded anything we could have done, and they were building data centers faster than we could. Google and others were building data centers quickly, and we had built out 10 data centers by that time, and had 15, 20 petabytes worth of data. Yes, no, we were no, schleps. We weren't lazy people, but we were definitely losing the battle there, and the margins were shrinking. Anybody who now had over 100 gigs worth of data, we were losing money on. 100 gigs? I mean, how many of you guys in this room have 100 gigs worth of data at home? Yeah, I mean, really, is that odd to ask? But in 2008, it kind of was. 100 gigs. So that's when Mozy had to make a decision. Do we do something innovative, or do we change the business model? They changed the business model. They went to a pay-as-you-go metered model. They lost, I won't say it because we're being recorded, but let's just say they lost thousands of customers in the first few days, and then continue to lose thousands of customers ongoing because one day your bill's $30 a month, and then you go to Hawaii and you come back, upload some photos, and your bill's $50 a month, and you're like, what? So they cancel, and that meter model just isn't going to work in the cloud, and the metrics, and we watched this from 2006 to 2011. You could see that whether you were a 100 gig user today or a 500 gig user or even a 10 gig user, at some point in the curve, you were going to start accumulating data, and so accumulating data is a problem, especially if you run data centers. And in the data center game, it's about consolidation. How many servers can you rack on top of each other? How much cold air can you pour into it? And then it becomes expensive. A hard drive today, $100 for a 2 terabyte drive. Well, how come I can't get a terabyte at Amazon for $100 a year? Well, it's because of all the other additional operating expenses on there. So my co-founder and I, we left Mozy. I got fired. I was one of those who actually was proud to get fired. When you see a company going in the wrong direction, you raise your hand and say, this isn't right, and then they basically say, you're a cancer, get out of here. You walk out with your head high, and we started thinking about this idea of how can we build a distributed storage system at the very edge of the internet. And the edge of the internet is in your home. It's where your ISP comes in, and we could essentially get free cooling. Your bandwidth is a fixed cost. Electricity, running a small little NAS device costs a few bucks a year. And then if you could peer all those devices together and do what you do in the data center, you could offset those crazy costs in the data center and potentially offer a cloud storage system that is revolutionarily different than anything else anybody else is doing. So Space Monkey launches in July. We have hundreds of devices out there in our network, in our alpha network, and we're scaling up to tens of thousands of devices coming out here in the next few months, and that's kind of how Space Monkey is trying to disrupt the cloud and the data center. Okay, well,
Maybe Martin or Nick, can you just jump in and give us a sense of what you guys think of this whole anti-data center approach?
I would say, I think from the Google perspective, data centers are a piece of infrastructure that a lot of the internet is built on, and I think for us the focus is less on the storage and more on what we can do with that data. How do we make that information useful? Because storage gets cheaper, there are different ways to move it around, different ways to balance it. But at the end of the day, as more content moves online, how do you make sense of it? And that's where I think Google's really focused on less about the storage piece, although that has to be there, but more about taking your information that's there and making it useful for you. So whether that's figuring out, hey, you're going to this meeting, these are the files you're going to want to look at when you get there, and bringing them to you, or these are the photos from this restaurant you were in the last time you were there, things like that. That's really the focus. So I think the storage piece is important, and there are going to be a lot of different innovations and changes in data centers, for the next bunch of years. But the focus, I think, for us is less about the storage side and more about what we can do with that information.
What about security?
Well, that's obviously a big deal. I think, to just step back to the comment about cost, right? I think, back in the day, we used to give away free T-shirts and free CDs and things like that, right? Today, when you're dealing with consumers, a lot of what you give away for free is storage, online storage. It has become a commodity. It is something people in the consumer segment expect for free. And so building value-adding services on top of it is very relevant. I think when you look at businesses, I think businesses are beginning to understand that not all online storage is created equal, right? I mean, that there is actually a cost behind free. That you don't really know what happens with all this stuff that you get for free, right? There was a story the other day about Skype, right? That somebody figured out that Microsoft is actually looking at those Skype conversations that you have, right? Somebody had some links in the Skype conversations, and a few days later they figured out that those links were being accessed after they've had the conversation. Why? Because somebody was looking at the data. And, there are some companies that are making a business out of serving up ads based on the data that you have, right?
Which companies
I'm not
are
gonna
naming any
talk about any names here.